When words are inadequate, have a ritual. Dr. Alan Wolfelt. Death is something that everyone has to deal with at some point or another, and it is one of the things that humanity has dealt with since the beginning of time. But what has been different is how these people have reacted to death. Burial traditions and rituals have been around for thousands of years and span almost every culture and religion you can think of. So today, I hope to break down this concept and help you understand a little bit more about what burial traditions are and why we have them. I'm Bree, and I'll be your guide. Welcome to the Scholarly Cheese Guild. So what exactly is a burial tradition? Well, it's hard to pin down an exact definition, but it's essentially a set of customs that someone or a group of people go through when a loved one dies. And since they are traditions, they have typically been passed down from generation to generation. This can include dressing of the body, burial, cremation, or anything else when death has occurred. Burial traditions vary significantly across cultures and can look different in almost any situation. Some ancient burial traditions include the Greek, where they would bury their dead with a few objects, but most importantly, they placed a gold coin, or a gold drachma, as the currency was in ancient Greece, under the tongue of the deceased in order to help them buy a ferry across the river Styx in the underworld. Or the Egyptian, where the embalming of the body was very important, and the bodies were buried with many worldly possessions. Of course, there are so many other traditions, but I would have to be buried myself before I can name them all. But before we talk about why these are important, Jack has an interesting fact over in the Mischief Corner.
Thank you, Bree. I do in fact have a fact for you wonderful people today. Did you know that the Chinchurro were the first culture to mummify their dead? They started doing this around 5000 BC, which was about 2000 years earlier than the ancient Egyptians. These mummies helped contribute understanding in funerary and ritual practices, as well as shining a light on an ancient community's cultural and spiritual structures. These mummies were painted using red and black paints, and even had wigs. A sculptor would also create a mask for the deceased to be buried in. Many were buried with ceramics, food, and little trinkets, but these mummies were not always kept in the ground, as some families would bury their mummies in their houses, so that they could uncover said family members to bring to celebrations. They really took to heart the idea of life after death. I guess you could say I'm pretty jacked about that fact. Back to you.
That was actually a pretty interesting fact. Thank you, Jack. The last thing we should discuss about burial traditions is why we have them. A burial tradition is a mourning of death, but it's also a celebration of life. It's taking time to grieve and to remember your loved one, while also taking time to celebrate the life that they led. In some cultures and religions, they are to prepare the deceased for the afterlife. Whatever the reason, burial traditions are very important to so many different cultures and are something that connects people in times of loss. So I hope this video helped you learn a little bit about burial traditions, what they are, and why we have them.